Yo guys, what is up? It's your boy TRUEDBZ back with another video, and today I'm gonna be talking about Budokai Tenkaichi 4. So at the previous battle hour, along with some Dragon Ball FighterZ news, we got some updates on the next Dragon Ball game that's going to be released. So basically we're getting a brand new Budokai Tenkaichi game. Right now everybody's calling it Tenkaichi 4. Because we don't have an official new title for this game, but everybody's just calling it Tenkaichi 4. So with that being said, we got a little teaser trailer, and honestly it was a really good teaser trailer. We don't know much about the game itself, but we do know it is a Budokai Tenkaichi style game. So with that being said, I thought it'd be fun for me to do a little video talking about my predictions for what I believe will be in the game at its launch, and then a wish list of things that might be in the game, or things I just want to see in general. So yeah, I'm gonna be breaking it down into 4 parts. So today I have gameplay, we have modes, we have roster, and then music. So those are the 4 things I'm going to be mainly talking about, and in each one of those categories we'll have a prediction, we'll have predictions, and a wish list for things I just want to see in general. So, with that being said, we'll start with the gameplay section. So for the gameplay section, I have, for my predictions, I have free roam flying, the smash link system, move list customization from the Raging Blast series, and the blast stock and key system. So with all these things, what do I mean by them? So free roam flying is pretty famous style of play. Pretty much every Dragon Ball game has some form of free roam flying in it. Starting off with, you know, the Tenkaichi series, for example, and then it moves on to the Raging Blast series, which has a much tighter but slower form of it. And then we have Xenoverse 2 and the Xenoverse series in general, where it's kind of like a mix of the two, where Xenoverse 2 is kind of rigid, but it's a lot better fluidity wise when it comes to Raging Blast series. So pretty much after Tenkaichi, we have free roam flying in most of our Dragon Ball games. So I do believe this will be a consistent thing with Tenkaichi 4. So the Smash Link system is basically so basically how the combos work in Tenkaichi 4 is that you have your light attacks and then you have your heavy attacks. And you can change your combo based on what button presses you use. So basically like a link system in, you know, any fighting games, if you guys played any of those, or like in Storm, you know, you can press circle and circle again to perform a combo. With the Tenkaichi series, you can do square square, you can do square triangle, you can do square 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 triangle, stuff like that. So I see that that combo system will still persist. It might be more streamlined, kind of like how Raging Blast did it, for example, where all the links are essentially the same, but I do hope that they keep the links different, you know, for each character, like how the Tenkaichi games did it. Next is going to be the move list customization from the Raging Blast series. So in Tenkaichi, every character pretty much has their own predetermined moveset. So if you're playing Goku will have, you know, Kaioken, Kamehameha, and Spirit Bomb on his early version. But if you play Goku Mid, which is from the Frieza saga, he'll have 20 times Kamehameha, a normal rushdown attack, and then the Super Spirit Bomb. Well, in Raging Blast, they actually cut down the roster from different versions of the characters into one character, and then they just took the moves from those other characters and just plopped them into one. So in Raging Blast, for example, Goku, he has his Kaioken techniques, he has Solar Flare, he has all the Spirit Bombs, he has all the different Kamehamehas from the normal one, the 3 times, the 20 times, you know, he has multiple different Kamehamehas. So, as well as the Xenoverse series as well. So, move list customization, I feel like is going to be a mainstay for Dragon Ball games pretty much forever, because I feel like it's just a lot easier for the developers to just create one character and just plop moves into their moveset instead of just creating a whole new different list of Gokus, you know, with all these different moves and stuff. So I feel like the move customization is going to be a mainstay for these Dragon Ball games. And then finally we have the blast stock and key system. So in Tenkaichi you have key, and you can charge that key, you know, with the charge button, and then you can use the key to perform attacks. But the blast stock is actually a unique mechanic in the game in that it refills over time, and what blast stock allows you to do, it allows you to do transformations and as well as secondary buffs to your characters. So for example, Mid Goku, so the Goku from the Frieza saga, so he has the ability to charge his Spirit Bomb with one of his special moves, and each time you charge the Spirit Bomb, it gets stronger. Well, the way you do that move is that you use your blast stock instead of using ki. Your ki is used for your actual attacking moves, while the blast stock is more so supporting buffs like adding armor, attack buffs, charging certain techniques and stuff like that. So I do believe that the blast stock and ki system will remain in Tenkaichi 4 because I feel like that's just a staple of how the game is just played in general. I would be really surprised if they took out the blast stock system because I feel like it adds a little extra resource management to the game, because if you don't have any blast stock from, you know, using your buffs and stuff, then you can't transform, and if you're spamming transformations, then you won't have enough blast stock to use your supporting techniques. So, you know, it's a kind of a resource management, and I feel like it's really cool system, so I really hope they keep it in Tenkaichi 4. So for my wish list when it comes to gameplay, I have keep the same flight speed and movement, in-depth defensive options such as Sonic Sway, the health burst, and high-low blocking. And then I have the tag switch battles from the Rage and Blast series, blast deflection from the Rage and Blast series, and signature attacks from the Rage and Blast series. So this list is kind of weird, but I'll explain. So first we have same flight speed and movement. So the reason why I have this here is because Tenkaichi 3 is a pretty fast and mobile game. When you're at long range, you pretty much can fly anywhere on the map really fast, and it's even faster when you use ki. So, you know, with such high speed, it can be difficult to keep track of your characters, which is why I believe in the Rage and Blast series that they really cut down the speed of the game to where it is a lot easier to move, but also it feels more rigid and harder to play, at least for me. So I really hope that they keep the same speed and movement options that Tenkaichi 3 had. Next, I have in-depth defensive options. So Sonic Sway, Health Burst, and then high-low blocking are my examples. So Sonic Sway is a defensive option that you can use while your opponent is attacking you. And if you successfully counter your opponent, you will actually dodge their attacks and take away some of their ki. And yes, this can be spammable, but it does lose to supers and grabs. So if you think your opponent's going to try and counter you with Sonic Sway, you can just cancel your normals into a super or into a grab, and it'll just break it. Health Burst is when you use the L1 button while you're in a combo, and if you double tap L1, you will actually perform an explosive wave, but it will actually drain your health. So it's kind of like a get out of jail move, but it's not for free because it takes away your health. And then I have high-low blocking. So in Tenkaichi 3, you can actually block mid, high, and low, and pretty much everybody has a sweep and an overhead attack. So it really does matter how you block in Tenkaichi 3, and I really want that to stay a thing because I really feel like that most 3D fighters don't really have oppressive offense, especially when it comes to blocking opponents. Most of the time they compensate it by having it be a guard break game, kind of like how Storm and Demon Slayer are. How you block in those games is that it's not about blocking, you know, high or low. It's about whether or not you can escape the opponent's block strings by calling assists to break their offense, or sidestepping to just avoid blocking in general. But I do feel like they should keep high-low blocking in Tenkaichi 4 because it'll just add more options and more ways to open up your opponent rather than just, oh, I'm just gonna guard break him and do a combo, you know. It adds a little bit more in-depth to defense and stuff like that. Next, I have tag switch battles. So in the Rage and Blast series, this was a brand new mechanic, I think added to Rage and Blast 2. I don't think it was in Rage and Blast 1 to my knowledge. But in Rage and Blast 2, if you're playing in a team battle and you decide to switch out mid-game, then you can actually interrupt the opponent and do this little in-air battle, which basically allows your opponent to pretty much counter your switch. You still get your tagged character out even if you lose the battle, but you actually appear in a disadvantaged state because they'll actually hit you and they can combo with a super or do key stuns into a combo itself and stuff like that. So if you lose the tag battle, you actually get pretty punished for it, like really badly. So I really hope they keep the tag battles. Maybe they can switch it from an input base to maybe, you know, spinning your controller or mashing a button a certain amount of times or something like that. But, you know, I really want the tag switch battles to remain. Next, we have the Blast Deflection technique from the Rage and Blast series. So this was actually in Rage and Blast 1, but it was really perfected in Rage and Blast 2. With the input being a lot easier to do and giving you more time to do so. So the Blast Reflection or Deflection technique is basically if you're holding block and you use your analog stick, if you swing your analog stick left or right when blocking a beam attack, this only works for projectiles like ball supers or beam supers and stuff like that. So if you actually do block those techniques, you can actually deflect it and negate all the guard damage and chip damage it'll originally do to you if you just blocked it normally. This was a really cool technique and it actually looks really cool in Rage and Blast 2. And so I really hope that they keep that mechanic. It's really fun. Most of the time it's not really a big deal if you block your opponent in the Rage and Blast series, because I don't really think that guard breaks were a thing when it comes to like if you block for too long. But, you know, if they do have a guard break system in Tenkaichi 4, I feel like then Blast Deflection will actually matter. But even if it doesn't, it'll still be a nice thing to have. And finally, we have signature attacks. So signature attacks are a move that the character in question has that's unique to them. This also comes from the Rage and Blast series. So for my example, I have Goku. So Goku can actually teleport punch an opponent with his signature attack. And then also Vegeta actually has a signature attack where he shoots a flurry of Ki Blasts. And that you can actually cancel those Ki Blasts into other Ki Blasts. So, you know, they both have utility and combo usage. So these are really cool things that I really hope returns as well, because it adds a little bit more in-depth to the characters outside of, you know, base combos and what super attacks you give them. Signature attacks were a really cool addition in the Rage and Blast series, and I really hope that they keep those as well. Alright, so the next category on the list is the modes of Tenkaichi 4. So I have, for my predictions, I have story mode, tournament mode, online mode, and training mode. So for these, I feel like I don't really have to explain them. Story mode in a Dragon Ball game is a given. I think the only game that doesn't have a story mode in a Dragon Ball game is Rage and Blast 2. But that's only because Rage and Blast 1 had a really good story mode, and they couldn't really copy and paste it. I mean, they could have, but it would have just been, you know, copy and paste basically. So I kind of appreciate them doing, you know, Galaxy mode, but I do think Tenkaichi 4 does need a story mode, especially with what if stories and GT stories and Dragon Ball Super stories, because like everybody knows what the story of Dragon Ball Z is, but most people probably don't know what Dragon Ball was like or Dragon Ball GT was like. So having those in a story mode format after, shoot, maybe Xenoverse 1 even, it would be nice to see, you know, the original Dragon Ball or GT get some proper story mode stages in a modern Dragon Ball game. Tournament mode is a given. Pretty much every Dragon Ball game outside of the Xenoverse series has a training mode, not training mode, has a tournament mode. So, you know, that's a given for Tenkaichi 4. Online mode, that's a given as well. Pretty much every game past the PlayStation 3 has an online mode, so I don't really need to go in depth there. Online mode will have casuals, have ranked matches, maybe have a tournament mode itself, which I'm crossing fingers about. But yeah, online mode is a given. And then finally, a training mode, you know, where you can select characters and have the CPU do certain things to practice against and stuff like that. So pretty much every fighting game, or fighter game, I guess I should call it. But basically every fighting game has some sort of training mode when it comes to, you know, 2D fighters, 3D fighters, you name it, they all have a training mode. So that's, you know, that's definitely going to be there. Alright, so for my wish list, I have online tournament mode, which I previously talked about, the character reference mode, battle training, Sim Dragon, Mission 100, Evolution Z Potaras, Red Potaras, and Shenron. So online tournament mode, I already explained, you know, is basically tournament mode but online, and you can play against your friends in a sort of bracket style, you know, tournament. Next is the character reference, which is basically a mode where you can look at different characters' models and pick up some of their backstory. So like, for example, the early version of Goku, he has his battle with Piccolo, his battle with Raditz, his battle with Vegeta, and his battle with Nappa. So he has different models for each fight, and you know, you can actually see the actual model without going in game. Also, with the character reference, I would like to say I really hope they bring back the Chi-Chi commentary, or even if Chi-Chi herself doesn't come back, I really hope that they bring some character to, you know, provide commentary and have, you know, fun little comments on the characters, because you know, hearing Chi-Chi talk about like the different Super Saiyan forms of Goku, Vegeta, and the others is pretty hilarious, and I really hope that they keep that part of the character reference. Next is a battle training. So this is basically training mode, but it gives you different objectives on how to learn the game. So basically a tutorial mode, and it in Tenkaichi 3 it actually shows you different slides for what each move does that it is teaching you, and then the game will ask you, do you want to practice this technique or move or combo in the game, so you can actually practice. So battle training, I feel like it could have been in the prediction section, but I don't really know if they would actually do a tutorial mode necessarily. But I really hope they do bring battle training back. It was a cool mode. Next on the list we have Sim Dragon. So this mode was actually a pretty cool and niche mode that most people don't really talk about. Basically, Sim Dragon is a simulation game where you actually take one of the characters from the roster and you actually train them up in this little simulation grid, basically. So basically you get about 10 days to do whatever you want, and by the end of those 10 days then you fight a very strong enemy at the end. So basically within these 10 days you can choose to train, you can choose to rest, you can obtain items through exploring and stuff like that. And you know, by the end of the session you fight a boss, and then if you beat the boss then you get to continue within the simulation until you lose, and then you get graded on a score sheet on how bad or how good you got. I really hope this mode can prevails in Tenkaichi 4. It's really cool and definitely one of the more unique modes in Dragon Ball games just in general. It's a really fun mode that I really practiced in and trained up a lot of characters back on my older PS2. but I definitely had a lot of fun with it, and I really hope it comes back. Mission 100 is basically an arcade mode, basically. Mission 100 is basically a set of 100 matches, and then against the CPU, and basically they give you different stipulations, like basically you can only select 2 characters for this fight, or you have to beat this fight within a certain amount of seconds, or you can't use any super moves, or you have to use characters within a certain DP rating, and stuff like that. So it's basically an arcade mode, but they add, you know, extra missions on top of that to make the actual fight harder. And of course, with the title Mission 100, you get 100 battles, and then you get graded basically on how fast and how well you beat the CPU. I feel like this is kind of a given as well. They might not do Mission 100 precisely, but I do believe some sort of arcade style mode will exist in Tenkaichi 4, but you know, Mission 100, you know, 100 battles is plenty of content to go through. Evolution Z Potaras. So Evolution Z is basically your skill tree mode. So Evolution Z gives you Potaras, the ability to purchase them first of all. So you can purchase Potaras and they give you certain buffs like attack power, the ability to charge ki quicker, better defense, you know, having moves cost less ki, having more blast stock, you know, basically overall buffs and nerfs to characters that you can equip to your characters in different preset slots and stuff like that. So I really hope Evolution Z does come back. You know, there were different types of Potaras, the most infamous ones being the red Potaras, but we'll get into that later. But the most common ones are the blue Potaras, the purple, and then the, it was yellow, blue, and purple. So the blue ones are kind of like your standard attack debuffs, and buffs, defense, ki charge, blast stock, stuff like that. The yellow one are special abilities like changing the amount of ki cost, adding certain things like halos, and giving non-flight characters the ability to fly, so special stuff like that. And then the purple Potaras are CPU based. They basically change how the CPU fights you, and you can equip those to like certain characters. If you want to fight like a zoning style Frieza or an up close rushdown Goku, you can equip like the Goku purple Potara or the Frieza purple Potara. They basically change how the CPU fights against itself and against you, so probably the least impactful, but definitely a cool concept. So yeah, these different types of Potaras adds a lot of customizables to character movesets and stuff like that. And as well as the ability to level up characters as well is part of Evolution Z. Basically you gain Dragon Points throughout the game by doing missions in story mode, doing tournaments and stuff like that. And then you use those Dragon Points to level up your characters, and then when your character is level up, then you can put Potaras on them and then, you know, buff your characters and stuff like that. So, Evolution Z, I really hope it sticks around, and it's a really fun mode. Alright, so I decided to cut this part outside of Evolution Z because the way you obtain red Potaras is actually pretty unique and cool. I don't think the way that you obtain red Potaras will persist in Tenkaichi 3, but I do want the red Potaras in general to stay within the Tenkaichi game. So red Potaras is basically, it's basically broken abilities, basically. It's literally broken. So the way you obtain red Potaras is that by entering a certain code within the database of the Tenkaichi 3, you can actually get a red Potara buffed character, and basically it gives you everything. It gives you attack buffs, defense buffs, keys buffs, the ability to, you know, use less ki on moves, you get blast stock faster, you regen health, you get more health bars. Basically you get an OP character by using this code. And so, you know, having, you know, characters with red Potaras is actually pretty fun. So I really hope they stick around. I hope they stick around in Tenkaichi 4. They might have to change how you obtain them. I don't think they'll do a code system. Maybe they'll have it as like free DLC, or if they do sell it in paid DLC, maybe that will be part of it. Like maybe if you buy DLC Pack 1, you'll get a code for 15 characters for red Potaras or something, you know, something extra like that. But I do want red Potaras to come back, just because they're really fun. Obviously, you shouldn't use them in like an online session, you know, because they'd be unbalanced. But, you know, if you're doing something like local battles or matches against friends and stuff like that, then yeah, you can use red Potara characters. But yeah, red Potaras, broken, really fun. I really hope they return. And then finally we have Shenron. So I do predict some way of collecting Dragon Balls in Tenkaichi 4, just because pretty much in every Dragon Ball game, collecting Dragon Balls is a pretty cool, like, extra thing you can do. But the way Tenkaichi does it is that you can actually obtain Dragon Balls by playing story mode stages and actually breaking the environment. Most of the time you will find them in like the city maps and the glacier map and stuff like that. It can be difficult to track them down because they're pretty much random. So I do expect the Dragon Balls to appear. But I would like to see them return in the same fashion, you know, you be able to find them through story mode. Though I do want them to add a marker on which chapter the Dragon Ball will appear in, just because in Tenkaichi 3 there really isn't a system for that. You kind of just have to figure it out. You really just have to figure out what stage has the Dragon Ball in it and then just get it, you know, at random chance. So, you know, if the Dragon Balls do come back in that fashion, I would like them to add like markers or maybe a hint system or something to help you find the actual Dragon Ball itself, and then you play the stage and then you find it within the stage and stuff like that. So Shenron Dragon Ball collection system, I hope it returns. Okay, next on my list is the roster of Tenkaichi 4. So this might be a little controversial, but you know, this is just what I believe as a prediction list. So first on my prediction list is that I expect a much smaller roster at base when compared to Tenkaichi 3. I expect a similar size in comparison to Raging Blast 2 or Tenkaichi 2. Basically within the 60 to 100 character range, instead of having the 150 plus that Tenkaichi 3 had, just because Tenkaichi 3 basically has, you know, 2 previous sequels to build upon its roster. And yes, Tenkaichi 4 is a direct sequel. I just don't think that they will add every single character from Tenkaichi 3 into 4, just because some of those characters are kind of irrelevant, you know, which I'll get into later on this list, but I do expect the roster to be smaller. Next, I have characters won't have multiple versions of the same character. So basically there won't be 3 different types of Gokus. You know, there won't be one Goku from the Saiyan Saga, Frieza Saga, and Buu Saga. Basically, every character will just be that character, and then, you know, you can equip moves and transformations, you know, afterwards, you know. Kind of like Raging Blast, you know, you have one Goku in Raging Blast. You know, he has all the different forms. You can equip Kaioken to, base Goku, then transform into Super Saiyan Goku, and then have moves from the Buu Saga, you know. Every character is going to be one version of that character. And with that being said, you know, you'll be able to customize their moves and stuff like that, which I talked about previously. My next on my prediction list is the general roster entirely. So basically, I expect that Dragon Ball Z characters, GT characters, and Super characters will appear in the base roster. So expect characters like, you know, Goku, Vegeta, Goten, Trunks, Teen Gohan, Adult Gohan, you know, Pan, I expect Pan to be there. I expect GT Goku, GT Vegeta, Omega Shenron, both Gogetas, Vegetos. When it comes to Dragon Ball Super, I do expect it to be a little bit barren. I don't expect them to put every single Dragon Ball Super character in Tenkaichi 4 in the base roster. I expect, you know, if they were to do multiple characters, maybe they do Dragon Ball Super Goku, but like I said, I don't want that. You know, I want every character to be that character. So, you know, Goku is just Goku. You know, he has all of his transformations from Super Saiyan all the way to Blue Goku. I do expect UI Goku himself to be a separate character, just because Ultra Instinct is such a different transformation than, you know, all the others in the series, that I do think that he can be a standalone character on his own. So I do expect him to be a separate character, but, you know, Super Saiyan all the way up to Super Saiyan Blue, I expect base Goku to have it. When it comes to other characters in Dragon Ball Super, I expect characters like Hit to be in the base roster, Goku Black, Zamasu, Kaba, Caulifla and Kale I expect to be in the base roster. Maybe even the Ribrianne squad. So basically, I expect the cap is to be Dragon Ball Super Broly, to be where Dragon Ball Super characters end. I do expect Dragon Ball Super Broly to be in the roster at base. Maybe not like Wrathful Broly. Maybe he might be DLC, but I do expect that Super Saiyan and Full Power Broly to be in the base roster. Maybe Gogeta Blue is in the base roster. He might be DLC, maybe. But I do expect, you know, Gogeta Blue to be in the game itself. Whether he's DLC or not is just up to developers, but I do expect, you know, Gogeta, Broly, maybe even Cheelite will be a character in the game. Who even knows? But I do expect characters up to DBS Broly to be there. Dragon Ball Super Superhero, I expect to be DLC, which I will talk about later. So, Z, GT, Super, I expect all those characters to be there. Original Dragon Ball is kinda tricky because we don't really get content from original Dragon Ball, like, ever. So maybe they'll have Kid Goku in the game. Grandpa Gohan, I don't expect him to be there. Roshi has to be there, you know, for Resurrection F and stuff like that. Demon King Piccolo is definitely a good option. General Tao is a good option. General Blue. Maybe the Peel-Off Machine shows up as like a joke character, but I don't expect it. So there's a lot of original Dragon Ball characters they can add. I just don't know if it's likely or not. And then finally, special characters might not show up in the game. Characters like Orali, Kid Chi-Chi, and King Vegeta being my 3 examples. I don't expect those characters to return in Tenkaichi 4. Especially Orale and Kid Chi-Chi. I feel like those characters are kind of out of nowhere style characters, which Tenkaichi 3 and the Tenkaichi series in general is known for. They're out of wacky characters, but I feel like Orale is kind of not prevalent anymore, and it would be fantastic to have her in another video game. I'd love to have Orale in there. I just don't know if they would actually do it. Kid Chi-Chi, I don't expect her to return. She's nothing. Well, she isn't nothing, but she doesn't really have a presence inside of the actual Dragon Ball, you know, series. So I don't expect her to return. And King Vegeta, definitely the most plausible out of these 3 characters. King Vegeta would be a great addition to the roster, just adding more of the, you know, battle-hungry, you know, older Saiyans in the game. So it'd be nice to have King Vegeta, but I don't expect him to return. So special characters like them, the Peel-Off Machine is another character like that. General Blue is another special character. Tambourine, which is one of King Piccolo's subordinates. I don't expect characters like him to return, Devilman, you know, those characters I don't really expect to return, but once again, who really knows? I do believe that the roster will be smaller, so characters like that probably will be cut out in service of Dragon Ball Super characters. So that's what I expect. I don't expect characters like, you know, Arali, Kid Chi-Chi, and Vegeta, or King Vegeta to return, but it would be nice if they did return. Alright, so my wish list for roster is basically DLC packs. So my main 3 is manga characters, basically Moro characters, and Granola characters from those respective arcs, and then Dragon Ball Super Hero. And then as well, if there's any more Dragon Ball movies or heroes or stuff like that, if they want to collab with heroes and stuff like that. So I do expect if they were to do manga characters, because honestly we haven't gotten a single Dragon Ball game with manga characters in it. We haven't gotten any version of Moro or Granola in a video game. So adding those characters to Tenkaichi 4 would be literally a first for those characters. Characters like Miris would be nice for them to show up. You know, Dragon Ball Super Bardock and Gine would be really cool. Maybe even like Blue Evolution from the manga might show up. Maybe Perfect Super Saiyan Blue. Those are kind of out there, you know, characters, but it'd be nice to see them. But I do expect, well, I don't expect, I wish that Moro and Granola style arc characters come into the roster. Ultra Ego Vegeta, once again, very popular character. He will be fantastic for DLC packs. You know, maybe UI signed Goku from the Moro arc as well, with you know, the giant, you know, UI kaiju thing. Well, that was in perfect UI, but you guys get what I'm saying, you know, manga characters. And then as well as Dragon Ball Super Hero characters, I don't expect any of the Dragon Ball Superhero characters to be in the base roster. They pretty much have to be DLC because they're the most current and most lucrative characters they could add to the roster for DLC. So I do expect them to not be in a base roster. So characters like Pan, Piccolo, both his potential unleashed and orange form, Gohan with Super Saiyan 1, 2, and Beast, Gamma 1 and 2, maybe Dr. Hedo will be, you know, a joke character as well. So I expect those characters to be DLC, not part of the base roster. Alright, so finally we have the music, which, you know, they're pretty much gonna have brand new tracks for the game. I don't expect the entire game to just have older tracks. I do expect some new tracks to be there. But what I really want is, in my predictions, I have remixes of the old Tenkaichi OST. So, my most favorite ones from Tenkaichi 3 is Caution, Wild Rush, and High Speed and Scream, I think it's called. Those are some of my favorites from Tenkaichi 3. So if they were able to remix them into brand new songs, I feel like that would be really cool, and would add a lot of, you know, extra content in the game. Maybe you unlock them through doing arcade mode or tournament mode or stuff like that. And as for my wish list, I really want the original songs to be there as well as the, you know, remixes. So I expect remixes to be there, but my wish list is for the original songs to be there. I know there was some kind of scandal with the music, with the creator's music. I think he got in some trouble and they weren't able to like have him make music in games anymore or something like that. I remember in Rage Blast 2, they actually released 2 versions of the game with different music because of that whole thing happened. But I really do want the original Tenkaichi songs to return, and as well I want some of the tracks from the Raging Blast series to return as well. Not as remixes, because, you know, it's not a Raging Blast game, it's a Tenkaichi game, But I do want the soundtrack to come to the game, maybe as DLC packs or something like that. But I really do want the original songs to be there as well, because some of the Raging Blast songs are really, really good. And basically, since the Raging Blast series is basically a slower, more dumbed down version of the Tenkaichi series, I feel like it wouldn't be too weird to have music tracks from the Raging Blast series in there. I don't think it would be that weird. Not at all. So yeah, that is the music. So with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Do you think my predictions are correct, or are they wrong? Do you guys agree with my wish list for things like character packs, music, different modes, and gameplay? Do you like what I had to say about Tenkaichi 4 and my predictions? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you guys enjoyed this, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content in the future. And I will see you guys in the next video. Sayonara.